If I told you there was a job where training had a 70% dropout rate, what would you guess? You know, before you read the title of this video. A fighter pilot? A paramedic maybe? No. How about a London taxi driver? This seemingly simple job in comparison is actually a lot more complicated than you first might think. Driving a taxi in one of the most busiest cities in the world requires a lot to actually do the job. But how involved is this? For a job which in training has a 70% dropout rate is ridiculous, and for good reasons, all of which we will explore in today's video. This is Brainspill, my name is Tank, and today we're going to find out whether you are cut out to be a London taxi driver, or at the very least, just find out what the hell is involved to make this so complicated. I mean, it can't be that hard to drive from point A to point B and then just drive around the Houses of Parliament a few times. No, there's a lot more involved than that. Before we jump in, if you like the video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss an upload. Being a London taxi driver. Its rigours have been linked to those required to earn a degree in law or medicine. Examiners may ask a would-be cabbie to identify the location of any restaurant in London, any pub, any shop, any landmark, no matter how small or obscure it may be. So, best pull out Google Maps and get memorising, folks. Becoming a licensed London taxi driver is a rigorous process that requires commitment, knowledge of the city, and a specific set of skills. So, let's go into detail about what's included in this job fair of a video today. But before we get into the meat of this video, the insane parts of becoming a London taxi driver, we need to go back to London Taxi Driving 101. To become a licensed London taxi driver, you need to meet certain requirements, which involves possessing a full UK clean driver's licence. You must also be 18 years of age and pass a rigorous medical examination to ensure that you're fit to drive. This all makes perfect sense, because at the end of the day, if you can't drive a car, then this ain't the bloody job for you. So if you can't drive, maybe get over that speed bump first before actually thinking about anything else. So yeah, seems pretty basic. You basically need to know that you're fit and healthy enough to operate a vehicle safely, and make sure you can see when a tourist no doubt jumps in the middle of the road because they think that you're driving on the right side instead of the left. Because we all know that the left is the right side. What I mean is not the right side of the road, I mean the correct side of the road. You know what I mean. Anyway, so you're fit and healthy to drive, passed your test and have a licence, proved you are legally allowed to live and work in the UK, and passed a DBS check. You're through the first hurdle. What comes next on the fledgling taxi driver or person who is strangely curious how difficult it is to become a taxi driver in London? Well, let's dive into it. First and foremost, you'll be glad to know that you don't need any prior work experience before trying to be a London taxi driver, which is pretty neat. But if you live in London or are familiar with it, then you best get up to speed with your knowledge of the city, otherwise known as the knowledge. Why is it called the knowledge? Well, the name speaks for itself. You gotta be pretty damn knowledgeable. The City of London has over 60,000 streets in it. If someone asked me to name 10 streets in my hometown, I think I'd struggle. Just times that by 6,000 and you're almost there to know nearly every street in London. Crazy. The origins of the knowledge are unclear, but some believe it comes from the Great Victorian Exhibition in the year 1851, where London's Crystal Palace had hundreds of thousands of visitors and tourists, spawning this tradition that stood the test of time until this very day. Given the sheer chaos this must have caused, it makes sense to have stricter licensing rules in place to make sure that black cab drivers are actively knowledgeable and good at their jobs, making the travel experience from point A to point B as seamless as possible. Okay, it's not 60,000 streets. If you want to be accurate, get the A to Z of London and learn all 69,000 streets. Yeah, sorry, I should have probably thrown in the extra 9,000 streets you needed to learn, but maybe you don't need to know that if you haven't still revised the previous 60,000, so get on that. However, like all new things you learn, there's only so much you can learn in a book. You need to get out there and experience it yourself. So, best of luck with that. The reality of the test, however, is that you don't need to learn all 69,000 streets. Thank God for that. You only need to learn 25,000 of them. Yes, let me repeat that for you. You only need to know 25,000 streets. I guess these days that you have a sat-nav, you don't quite need to know as many, but this is still an awful lot, particularly when you could be asked about going nearly anywhere in London. This labyrinth of streets is going to have to be tangled one road junction at a time, which will take sheer time and dedication to learn. Your brain will pretty much become a built-in GPS by the end of this knowledge test. I would love to go to a pub quiz just for London taxi drivers, just to see what the kind of questions are, because that would be a real test in GPS geography knowledge. The most daunting part of becoming a London taxi driver is passing the knowledge. This is a comprehensive test of your knowledge of London streets, landmarks, and popular routes. The process involves memorising approximately 25,000 streets, thousands of places of interest within a 6-mile radius of Charing Cross. Joining a recognised knowledge school can be helpful as they offer structured training to help you navigate through the exhaustive list of roads and landmarks. These schools often have experienced instructors who guide you through the process of learning and preparing for this examination. Look, I'm not gonna lie, I've done enough examinations to kill a man in my life, so I don't intend to ever take one ever again. So I do not envy the future London taxi drivers of today, because that is ridiculous. Straight up. The examination for the knowledge is conducted by the Transport for London, or the TfL. It typically consists of a series of oral and written tests. You'll be tested on your ability to navigate through various routes, landmarks and places of interest in London. Basically, during these oral examinations, they're required to call routes from one location to another. Knowledge boys or girls, otherwise known as trainees, are tested at 56-day intervals, then 28, and then 21, and finally 14 before sitting their final test and acquiring their REQ, or REQ. Strangely enough, you can't actually fail the test, but if you don't pass, then you have to go back and basically retake it. In my definition, if you don't pass, you failed, but that might be just a nice way of saying you're good, but you're not quite London taxi driver standard yet. So, after passing the knowledge, you'll need to then take the practical test, much like doing an actual driving test in this country. However, this is a little bit more involved. The test includes showing your understanding of passenger safety, appropriate taxi operation, and overall driving skills. Once you've passed all the necessary tests, you can apply for a licence from the Public Carriage Office, which is a part of the Transport for London. You'll need to provide your required documents and pay the relevant fees to obtain your fabled licence. Hey, you did it! Congratulations! It only took you 3 or 4 years of your life to do, but hopefully it's worth it. So, you have your licence. You could choose to work for a taxi company or operate independently. Joining a company can provide you with a steady stream of customers, while working independently offers more flexibility. You could work for a minicab company or Uber, but generally Ubers don't have half the experience of actual black cab drivers do. And there's also the fact that a lot of people just simply don't like Uber, so think about that before you sign up. However, to continue operating as a London taxi driver, you must ensure that you adhere to the regulations set out by the TfL. This includes keeping your licence up to date and following all the rules and guidelines for taxi drivers in the city. Becoming a London taxi driver is a significant undertaking, but for those who are passionate about the city and, well, driving I guess, it can be a rewarding and fulfilling career choice. And that's just it. Not only is it a job worth having, but being a black cab driver, and more particularly black cabs themselves, are a staple of London. It is part of the culture, and I think it's good that they've got this sort of test to make sure that if people are coming to visit, or even people that just live there, they are getting the high standard of service that they expect from their taxi driver. So, you've got your licence, congratulations, and only occasionally you'll have to clean vomit out of the back of your taxi when you've picked up a drunk person, but hopefully not all the time. If you guys like that video, here's another one just like it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.